All right, it's 9 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Everyone will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any changes to the agenda? Josette? Josette,
Changes, sir.
you need to, didn't you want to amend the agenda to add Carol Lustig as chair of the
Yes, sir, I would,
of
actually.
the election committee?
So
All right.
we would like to amend the agenda to add Ms. Carol Ludwig in the...
As chair of the elections committee?
Yes, sir, Chair of the Elections Committee.
Just
I'll
point of order.
second the motion to amend.
Is there a motion? Yep, seconded. Any discussion? Any further amendments to the agenda? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Approval of minutes. We have a motion to approve the September 30th, 2021 special meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You have a motion to approve the October 11th, 2021 special meeting minutes. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
And a second?
Second.
Any
Second.
discussion or changes to the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from October 16th, 2021. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion or changes to the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. For the president's remarks, first off, Steve's not here, but I wanted to express the board's thanks to Steve Habiger, who, as of yesterday, turned over the reins of the elections committee to Carol Ludwig. Steve's been the chairman for the last 5 years, and he has done an outstanding job, and a man of the highest quality and integrity. And while we understand he wanted to move on to other things, he's going to be sorely missed as the chairman of the elections committee. So again, I saw Steve yesterday and thanked him, but again, wanted to officially and formally thank him on behalf of the board and the community. For additional president's remarks, I have two additional remarks. First off, there's been a lot of discussion in the community, and rightfully so, about the conditions of the mailboxes in the community. The issue with the mailboxes at this point has been turned over to Congressman Andy Harris's office to address. We submitted a constituents authorization form yesterday to Congressman Harris's office. He has a staffer who will work directly with the United States Post Office and they'll try to address the issues that we have here. We sent them the constituent form along with a spreadsheet of all of our cluster boxes. And in addition, a group of photographs of showing the current conditions of the boxes. Carol Kipple is the contact there, and what she is looking to do at this point is to have the post office come down and do a survey along with representatives from our Public Works Department and see if we can put a plan together to try to get these things either replaced or properly maintained. So at this point, this issue lies with Congressman Harris's office, and we'll see what they're able to do for us. The other issue is about a month ago, a member of the Environmental Natural Assets Committee, Marty Clark, made an allegation on social media that this board was hiding test results from the community regarding testing that had occurred in the ponds and the water in Ocean Pines. So I addressed this issue yesterday with the Environmental Natural Assets Committee and wanted to address it with the community. Normally, this board receives a lot of allegations on a routine basis, and normally we just don't respond to them. But this one, I think, was a little more serious. So to give the community an understanding of what went on here, last December, Colette Horn and I were in a meeting with John Viola, received a call from former Director Janisak advising us that a recent test done on the ponds indicated that there was a high level of human waste in the pond. The initial report indicated that it was most likely an anomaly because the number was so high. We agreed at that point to go ahead and have the test redone, and we would wait and see what the second test result showed. Second test was done in December, and unfortunately, the board never received those test results, either the first or the second test result. About a month ago, coincidentally, the day after Director Janisak had resigned, Marty Clark made these allegations on the Ocean Pines Forum that the board had the results and that the board was hiding these results. And in fact, in one email indicated that the board was negligent for not putting up barriers or fencing around the ponds. Clearly, the board had not received the results. However, Mr. Clark apparently had received the results. At the meeting yesterday with the Environmental and Natural Assets Committee, the committee did not receive the results, and the meeting minutes from October for the committee indicated that they were looking for Mr. Janisak to provide those results to the committee and the board. Tuesday of this week, I received copies of both of the reports. And the second report, the follow-up report, which was done in December, and the date of the report, first report was dated December 11th, second report was dated September 19th. And as expected, the second report indicated that the results from the first report there was an anomaly and there was no problem regarding human waste in the ponds. It was very disappointing that these allegations were made against this board and the general manager, that we were hiding these results. I wanted to clear that up with the community, that the board, I received those results on Tuesday. Yesterday, gave a copy to the general manager who had not received those copies, to Colette Horn, who I just happened to see yesterday, and Amy Peck, who is the new liaison to that committee. And she now has a copy of it too, and the copies will be available to everybody else whenever you would like. So I wanted to make sure the community understood that this board did not hide anything from anybody. Contrary to Mr. Clark's allegations, the board did not receive these results, and the general manager, I'm going to speak for John because we have discussed it, he did not receive these results either. And that's all I have for the president's remarks. We have, we're supposed to have a presentation from Steve Farr. There he is.
First, I'm going to apologize in advance for the condition of my voice. I had some medical issues that's stuck in my larynx right now, but so bear with me. I appreciate your patience. I'm Steve Farr. I'm the Watershed Coordinator at the Maryland Coastal Bays Program. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you all today to present information and hopefully reconfirm your approval to move forward with a grant proposal to Maryland Department of Natural Resources to support the design and permitting of a restoration for resilience project at Jenkins Point. Next slide, please. I don't know how well you can see this with the light, but I'm assuming that everyone is familiar with where Jenkins Point is located. It's in Isle of Wight Bay, just off of the offshore from the yacht club. And hopefully you can hear me. Here it is on the map. And it protects all of this area, or it did protect all of this area from storms and sea level rise from here. Next slide, please. I really wish you can see this. I don't know if you can see, but the green line here is the shoreline as it existed in 1961. Right? Sorry?
For the video, if you don't have the mic, it's not going to pick up. Move this over here.
Sure. That's great. Thank you. If you can see that green line, whoa, that's a bit much. You can see there's been significant erosion all along that area, and that what was once Jenkins Point was once a solid peninsula all the way down here. Whereas now, this peninsula ends here, it's two small islands. This one, I was crossing the Untitled Bridge yesterday, and you can barely see it. It's almost disappeared. So next slide, please. So last year, we being Coastal Bays Program, approached Doug Parks to consider some opportunities for resilience projects because we knew that the Maryland DNR had put out this RFP and they were looking for opportunities to protect community assets as well as protect habitat. And we looked at several opportunities in Ocean Pines, and Jenkins Point really popped out above anything else. And I think Doug at that point agreed with us. We put together a proposal for DNR and submitted it about this time last year. Unfortunately, it was not selected for funding, but we were given indications that it was very close. It was on the edge, or if they had more money, they hopefully would have approved it. We have since had discussions with DNR, and they have encouraged us to submit another proposal for this project. And in the interim, they also said one of the main reasons why it did not rate higher relative to others was that there was no local cost share offer, which we brought to the attention of, again, Doug, and he brought it to the attention of the board. And in last summer, a $10,000 cost share was approved to go along with this grant to basically match the DNR resources. And that's always a big help with grants like these, is to show local skin in the game, as it were. So at this point, we have really everything we need. One of the requirements this year is to make a presentation to the board or the community through the board of a homeowners association. And that's one of the principal reasons I'm here, is to be able to inform you about the project, get your, hopefully, can reconfirm your approval, and then Doug has the form that can be filled out that DNR requires. So the project would be, the total budget is going to be somewhere in the realm of $80,000, including the $10,000 from Ocean Pines. The project would be limited to design and permitting for this project. It would not involve actually moving forward with implementation. Of course, we would look to partner closely with you all and the community, as if the project is approved and we get funding for it, to monitor and participate in the development of a design. And then if the design and the permitting is achieved, what happens with these grants is that DNR will provide funding for construction without necessarily any participation from the local community. They would certainly appreciate that, but it's not at this point required, and there's no financial commitment from Ocean Pines Association beyond the $10,000 that was approved last year. So that's really all I have to say. I'm happy to answer any questions.
The only question that I had was, again, the second part of this is whether or not DNR is going to be looking for Ocean Pines to put a substantial amount of money into this. And the question, if I remember from seeing the original documents, we're talking about a multi-million-dollar project.
Correct. And my answer would be that we are working with DNR on a similar grant program for a project in Chincoteague Bay, and they are fully funding, they and other grants. We would work with you to seek other grants if the DNR funding was not enough to move forward with the project. But there are other opportunities to get money for projects like this. But no, you are not committing any money, not least of all, significant amount at this point.
Any other questions? Any other discussion? All right, thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Okay, General Manager's report, John.
So first, I just want to apologize for the slides. It's a new projector. I was told we did test it out, and hopefully somebody gets here soon to check it out. But obviously, we have backup, and we will be able to proceed. So with that, let me start on the report. You turn the slide. So starting off with, I am going to give an overview before Linda Martin talks about the process in more detail. We did complete the DMA Lite study. We do want to give an update today to the board. I'll talk about that, so we'll end it. Also want to talk about the 2022-23 proposed budget, where we are with that, and some of the items that we're noticing now. I did have the flight turf information. I was going to do a slide on that, but our president, Larry Perrone, has addressed that. We did supply all the information. I did meet with the environmental committee, gave them the update, the information they needed, the price, the cost, the situation where that grass would be 6 inches high throughout that whole area, and it could be affecting other types of meetings. So I won't get into that, but I do want to say.
Let me just jump in, just let everyone know. At the Environmental Natural Assets Committee meeting yesterday, the committee decided to withdraw their support for the turf grass proposal that they were talking about last week. So I let John know so that he didn't need to spend time making the presentation today.
Thank you, Larry. So all I want to say on this is a little separate from it, though, is that it was a committee. The committee had some good ideas. We did do research. We followed up. But the process worked. The process that's in our scrolls, I updated the board. The board, through the liaison and the president and everything, then addressed it with the committee. So to me, it worked. I want to more talk about that as opposed to the part that Larry handled. I did pull that out of the presentation, but I do want to highlight that, and I do appreciate the board's support on that. The Northgate Bridge, I'll talk about that, show you some pictures, and the AEDs, we'll talk about that also. Some quick updates, and Larry took care of the pond. I'll put that to the side. The pickleball permits, I know I get a lot of questions on that each week, where we are. The permits are completed, I'm being told. They're just waiting for signature up in Baltimore. We are following up trying to get it, but I guess with COVID, they don't, at least I'm being told that they don't work every day in the office. So it's just something we'll work on, and we'll try to get to the right people to hopefully just get it signed. So it is there. Hopefully I have good news on that coming forward. Bainbridge Drainage, I don't have a slide on that, probably next time, but we did meet with the county. As you know, the pond and all that is completed, the filtration, but then there's 3 roads after that. There's some pipes. We ran into utilities. We are working with the county. We had a meeting with them over the last 2 weeks, and hopefully that'll get started in the near future. Sorry. Okay, so the overview on the DMA. So the overview on the DMA Lite study, the objective on this, as I've mentioned earlier, this is a valuable tool. It's a valuable tool to me, to this association, where it puts everything into perspective as far as our fixed assets, a review of when everything is needed to be replaced, It gives us a guide so that we can get an understanding of where our reserves are, which is a big number and a big part of our balance sheet and what we do here. And it ties it all together. So it was a total team effort. We met with the outside consultant who gave us an input, DMA, who also did this several years ago. Linda's going to talk more about it and give you the detail. I had, as I mentioned in earlier meetings, I had signed the project to Linda, who I know did an excellent job. But from my end right here, I just want to say that, and I appreciate from the B&F team, which is a picture up there, we did receive B&F sign off on our assumptions in detail. And I do appreciate all the work that B&F did on that. But Lynn will give you more detail on that as far as an update. The fiscal year 2022-2023 proposed budget progressing very nicely. It is bottoms up as recommended by B&F, and certainly what we've been doing for years with a little bit from the GM from top down. But it is a bottoms up. But to address some of the situations I saw last year, I felt it was necessary for me to also do a top down. And I think the entire team, at least our team, is appreciating that, but it definitely is bottoms up. So we have been meeting with B&F, all department heads. I've met with all of them. They will be doing the presentation as requested by B&F, along with our number twos, which we've been doing since I've been here. So it'll be a total team effort. The timetable and assignments have been set. I believe we agreed on January 4th through the 6th. To do the presentation with B&F. I know Josh is all over that as far as communicating it, and there'll be more communicating on that. We will have the binders as committed by Steve Phillips, the entire team, and of course the GM to B&F, certainly before Christmas Eve. From somebody who received it when I was the chair in January, sometimes just before the meeting, I know that it'll be good for them and they can really get into it, and we'll answer any questions they have. We addressed any assumptions, pricing, expense control, capital outlays with the DMA study and with the team. We also addressed the surplus. So when I present the proposed budget, it will be probably a little different this year. I will be addressing a surplus that we have, a surplus that we realized last year. Right. So if we go back to last year, during the budget process, I said, look, we're running a surplus, and the board agreed with me, and I believe B&F did. We're running a surplus, but it's not realized yet. Let's wait to the end of the year. A lot going on. Certainly COVID. Obviously, weather has a big effect on a lot of our amenities. But now we have realized that. We realized a nice piece of surplus. And you'll see today, I'll talk about a surplus for this year. So that will all come into play. I will certainly analyze that and present that to B&F, the association, and the board. And I think we have a few options this year that we haven't had in the past. There are headwinds. There certainly are headwinds this year. Inflation. Inflation is, anybody that's watching any of the business channels or have gone to the supermarket or bought gas or anything else, inflation is certainly on the rise. That will affect the budget. We're seeing that, especially in certain departments. The minimum wage, there's a statutory increase this year. I will break that out. We will break that out for everybody and what that effect is on our financials, along with what we have put in there for a merit raise for our team. But there will also be a separate category in a sense above minimum wage. As we've seen this year between COVID and everything else, minimum wage maybe is not cutting it a lot of times for us to hire people or even keep people. We certainly have the history on that. And everybody around us is paying more. So you will see me. I will present something. We're working on that. But there will be a separate line item for that where everybody can see the effect on our team and our financials for that. It is a sizable number. It'll be broken out and it'll be analyzed completely and run by B&F. There are other micro factors that are certainly unique and definitely affect Ocean Pines. So with the inflation, with the price increases, with the increases in the minimum wage and everything, it is prudent, and we are looking at pricing and pricing increases for our amenities, aquatics, some golf, racket sports. So that will be a part of it. It's just, it's inflation. Okay, turn the page. All right, so the Northgate Bridge, there's been some, obviously there was an accident there that has been well reported. We took a couple pictures of it. I just want to give an update on that, where we're at. Turn the page in two pieces. One, the maintenance that we were in the process of doing or are doing for the bridge, as well as we're doing maintenance throughout Ocean Pines, the deferred maintenance that is part of our budget. So we're in the process of getting the bids. I believe we have it for the power washing. We were in the process of doing that before the accident, but we are going to power wash it. We don't have plans right now to stain it. We've never, to my knowledge, we haven't stained it, and I don't think at this time it's a good idea to do that. I believe the power washing and what we've been doing will take care of that. We have talked before in Public Works, and we've mentioned the approach to the bridge. Department of Transportation and other standards have come forward to us, and we are working with Vista to address the approach to the bridge. And obviously, even with this accident, the way it's structured, with that slope and everything, when a car hits that, it certainly is not good. So we are addressing that with the standards. We did talk to the county. The county has recommended some contractors that they use, and we're talking to them to get that done, and probably will be coming forward with that next month or two. So damage to the bridge, the county sent the inspector, temporary repairs. We are waiting for materials, but it is stabilized. It's nothing structural. If you can see up there, I did list the prices. It's around $7,800 to $100 for the timber, for the material, 16 to 20 weeks, probably another 14 to get the material. This COVID, it's a fact of life out there. Estimated labor for repairs, $7,500. That's all in-house. So the total is around $15,000. Yes, insurance will be involved one way or the other on that. Turn the page. Okay, so the AEDs, I mean, in Josh, and we've communicated, and thank you to the county, and I know the fire department, but we did have several heroes at the grill, but this has been well documented and communicated. I don't want to go through all that again, but just an update on where we're at. So on the top there, I listed all the locations that we currently have AEDs: Public Works, Racket Sports, Pools, Yacht Club, Restaurant, Admin, Marina, Community Center. Now, we had just moved one into the clubhouse. We had a portable one there, but we did shift once the swim and racket was closed. We shifted the AED there just weeks before it was needed. We have ordered another one. All departments have had initial training. We will work with the departments. I've looked for volunteers, so is Kathleen, who is running this program and doing a great job, to try to train more people on our staff and anybody else. We're also getting batteries and backup, and we're reaching out to instructors for the training. So it's a very valuable training, and we're lucky to have somebody like Kathleen and the rest of the people here to carry that out. Okay, turn the page. I guess next is Linda Martin. Linda. Yeah.
Okay.
Everything you did.
Okay. Just gonna overview the DMA Lite. We are wrapping it up. As you all might be aware, the contract was originally for DMA was originally given in 2015, 2016. The last update was 2018, and this study started in April. He did a site visit on April 12th through the 15th. Doug Green from DMA, and the first draft was given to us on July 2nd. Department heads reviewed through July and August through the busy time of the season, so it took a little longer than normal. But the second draft was given on August 24th. Team reviewed it again, and then September 15th, we received the third draft, and that was the draft that was given to the Budget and Finance Committee and the board for review. We wrapped up the working session last week on November 10th, and at the working session, the Budget and Finance Committee approved expenditures for all the departments for the next 5 years, approved the 3.08% inflation rate factor used by DMA, approved the 3.80 transfer rate used by DMA, and they also approved the fully funded average percent of 20%, which falls between 18.8 to 21.3% for the next 5 years. DMA also recommended at the working session that an increase of contribution to general reserves and recommended considering a funding source for road reserves. Yep. As of close of business yesterday, we had a total of 1,051 emails and phone calls addressed. And that's been since the end of March when the customer service started. So it's been a team effort, and it's working really well that everyone's using the info at Ocean Pines or contacting the 410-641-7717. In the summer, most of the questions were in regards to amenities and any kind of activities that were happening. But currently, it's just general questions. People want to know what's going on with like the tree lighting, and also any questions about dues, election updates, and short-term rentals. So that's the major things right now. We do still encourage people to use the info Ocean Pines, but we do also monitor the Ocean Pines Facebook page, Ocean Pines News and Info, which is not owned by Ocean Pines, and also the Ocean Pines Forum. So we do monitor them daily as well. Okay, budget update. As John mentioned, the budget worksheets and capital worksheets have been distributed to all department heads, and the preliminary budget numbers have been reviewed with the general manager. So right now, we're reviewing the capital and pricing, and the headwinds, as John mentioned, are the inflation and minimum wage, and the tailwinds are operating on all cylinders. The final draft will be reviewed by the Budget and Finance, like he said, on January 4th through the 6th, and with the review of the Board of Directors tentatively scheduled for later in January. Oh, we're doing CPI violations. Okay. CPI violations, it's been a little slower this month, but we did have a total of 72 violations still active. Legal, we're able to comply some out this month, so we are down to only 41 in legal. We had originally like 65, I think. So people are complying, and we do appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Linda. And I just want to thank Linda. I mean, she is stepping into this role. This is leadership development, but I have to say she's saving me a tremendous amount of time. It's very efficient and very effective, so I do appreciate it. Okay, so financials. This is the best part of the trip. The trip I really like. So let's talk about the financials. Steve and his team and the whole team also got us October the other night. So I will present September since I only did a flash with that last time. And then we'll talk about the October, and I do believe he's going to issue them tonight to those who like to get into the detail. So let's talk about the month first. This is the month of September. So the month of September, continuing operating on all cylinders. I try to break out the revenue and the expenses so you can see where the favorability is overall. Obviously, the revenue continues to be favorable. Every month I sit here and I present that the revenue is favorable. The revenue is organic. Continues to be, specifically golf, racket sports, aquatics. In addition to that, and you didn't see it this month, but I'll get into that too a little bit, but throughout the year, and what's continuing is expense reduction, and we certainly have had that. We continue to scrub the entire team. We scrub all accounts, and where we can rebalance or reallocate, we do that. I did put in the delayering, which saved us money when we actually did the budget, but continues to save us. So that's all part of that. So $175,000, just to break it out a little bit for you. Some of it is timing, specifically across the board, but public works. We are doing a lot of maintenance right now. We'll be doing work in the clubhouse. I've mentioned this before. We will be putting doors into that community room. The wall, we will be doing some painting for that ceiling, and along with other buildings, the admin building. The marinas came in. Marina came in favorable, honestly, across the board. The yacht club and the grills and the food and beverage pretty much balanced out. We are booking the accruals for the revenue sharing. Steve and I spoke about that, and we're talking to Ralph, but we are booking the we do owe revenue sharing on over certain amounts, and compliments to the Matador team for getting there. So you're going to see some balance out there. So there's your month, 175,000. That's September. Turn the page. So where are we year to date in September? Well, we're 1,300,000 to the favorable. And again, a lot of it is the revenue, the organic revenue. I mean, golf, and I'm going to give you some numbers to tie it all together. I wish I had put a slide together for it, but I definitely will next month, along with expense reduction allocation there. We obviously didn't have any PPP this year, because I do read and hear that. So if you take it in perspective and break it down by our amenities, where is this $1.3 million? And some of it is timing, and I do remind every month that the next 4 or 5 months, it's basically expense, right? The revenues, it's the winter months, and the revenue's down, but we still have expenses that are needed. So obviously these numbers will come down, and some of it is the timing, right, for maintenance. But let me highlight and tell you where the biggest parts are. So if I take golf maintenance, it's approximately, these are rounded numbers, it's approximately around 250,000 favorable to budget on the operation. Golf maintenance. If I put the grill in there, like every other golf course that I go to and everything, the grill is favorable 50,000. Majority of that is golf spend. Golf plus the grill, $300,000 favorable on the operating profit line. Yacht club, $260,000. Beach club, $70,000. Beach parking, $60,000. Public works, $120,000. A lot of that is timing. A lot of that is we weren't able to fill positions. We are looking at that. I mentioned about the minimum wage. And so obviously when we can't fill spots, whether they're instructors, lifeguards, or whatever, there's a savings on the salaries. But then we might be slipping somewhere else. The racket sports, as I mentioned, $45,000 favorable. We've invested money there. We did maintenance down there. We're fixing the fences, the courts. This hasn't been done for years, and I think it's showing good progress down there. They just keep coming. We're booking revenue. Well, we're booking revenue. There were tournaments there that were very successful that we sponsored. We brought in an outside consultants who did a fantastic job that generated money, as well as just showed off the courts and everything. And what we are going to do, hopefully we get the permit. The same thing with golf. Golf held a Pro-Am tournament, brought in money for the pro shop. It also brought in a lot of recognition for the course. There were a lot of pros from other courses there, and I believe John is having something on Monday. The feedback we're getting is tremendous on that. The pro shop, the fact that we were not able to get apparel and other golf stuff, it did affect us, and we lost sales over the last month. Hopefully, with everything with supply chains throughout and outside of Ocean Pines, we get that apparel, but we did lose money on that. Aquatics, $203,000 favorable. Obviously, we've turned the corner there. Great stuff going on down there, a lot of hard work. Between COVID and other challenges, that team has stepped up. I'm very proud of the director there, as well as the director at Racket Sports and all the directors. But there was a lot of challenges with COVID, as well as the minimum wage and the lifeguards. And there was some turnover, not as much as I'm reading, but they certainly did a tremendous job. And this team is focused, and I've said it before, they're operating on all cylinders. We're lucky to have them. Okay, so that's September. So October. So Steve did give me a flash. Like I said, by tonight he'll put out the controllers report, and you'll have the actuals. But 75,000 to the favorable. It's basically what I've been saying every month. We do have timing there with the Public Works, and I mentioned some of the work that Public Works is going to be doing over the next couple of months. So obviously that favorability will come down. Golf ops and maintenance, there it is again. Finance, police, some favorabilities. There were some open positions. The pickleball. Now the food and beverage, it's doing real well. Like I mentioned, we started booking the accrual because it looks to us that we would have to pay that. So again, food and beverage is not losing money in that month. They're doing terrific. I went to one of the banquets the other night at the clubhouse. They had about 80 people. They did the Matador company, the whole team did an outstanding job, and it was pretty impressive. So there it is, $75,000. Again, your revenue is organic, expense reductions. That's all I have on that.
All right, Doug, treasurer's report.
Yeah, hey, John, I had one quick question. With the success of that AED, is there a ballpark cost for an AED? If in next year's budget, we want to consider maybe putting AEDs at other locations throughout the community?
So the AEDs, Doug, it's around $1,500.
Okay.
For one, I was actually, but yeah, I'll put it in. Absolutely. I'm also trying to get somebody to sponsor them for us, but yes,
Okay.
we will put them in. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next slide, please. So as I always do every month, I go back and compare the current month with the previous month. So as of now, you can see that we've got $16.4 million in cash as compared to $16.8 million last month. Although I don't think it's tremendously significant, the rate of return has gone from 0.85% down to 0.75% this month. It had been holding steady at 0.85 for about 4 or 5 months. So, just a reflection of the market conditions and so on and so forth. And as you see, that $16.4 million is distributed with, 8.1 in CDRs and 8.3 in the money market accounts. So, next slide, please. So as I've been tracking throughout the fiscal year, the collections of the assessments, I'm happy to report that we're doing very well. That's kind of a historical view. So next slide, please. The significant one is, and I know it's difficult to see, I don't know how we didn't get a translate there, but in 2020 through September, we had collected 8.7 of the 9.1 million, or approximately 95.38% of the assessment. In 2021, of the 9.348 that was the assessment dollars, we've collected 9.319, or 99.69% of the assessment dollars, which translates into approximately $29,290 worth of delinquent accounts, which is by all means a pretty good collection rate. So kudos to everybody in Ocean Pines who understands the importance of paying their assessment and allowing us to manage the budget accordingly. I won't continue this for the next few months. I think the story's been told. I just want to make sure that everybody realizes how important it was and how well a job that everybody in Ocean Pines did in paying their assessment. Next slide, please. So the reserve accounts, really not a whole lot of change. I'll direct your attention to the bottom line on the far right hand. We're down to 7.6 million as compared to 7.8 million last month. We had some transfers in the general replacement of 100,000 and transfers in the bulkhead accounts for about 100,000 to account for that $200,000 change between last month and this month. We're trending well. There's no surprises there. And as we have said in the past, we'll continue to make sure that we understand exactly where all of the reserve accounts are funded so that we manage it going into the next fiscal year. Next slide, please. So not a big change in the, well, there is a little bit of a change. I know it's hard to see on this. You don't really see the bottom line there, but there was an item, a tractor that for $146,000 was expensed out of reserves, which is that second line item there. And then the under golf ops, the ball dispenser and wash was over $14K that was expensed. So last month, we were trending to be at a reserve balance across all of the reserve accounts of about 6.223 million. Right now, we're trending to be about 6.05 million, which again, based on expenses that come up, both planned and emergency expenses, we're about where we need to be, and that's the most important thing to commit to where we believe we need to be going into the next fiscal year, so that we can plan the contributions to the reserve accounts as well as the budget going forward. So we'll continue to make sure we monitor this, and again, we're trending where we need to be for the fiscal year. That's it for me.
Okay. I'm going to open the floor to public comments. I want to remind everyone, public comments are limited to 5 minutes, and give your name and address.
Thank you. My name is Grant Helby, and I live at 1443 Ocean Parkway. Complimenting the general manager for his report and obviously the performance that has been able to generate such a positive report. And likewise to the treasurer, thank you for your report. And things are looking good in the community. I love this community. I bought a house here the first day I ever came into Ocean Pines. I've been here for 20 years, and I plan to stay. It is an absolutely wonderful community. I was noticing the Ocean Pines, what do they call this? The Ocean Pines report. And reading through there, I was again happy to see all of the amenities we have and how much joy people receive by utilizing those amenities. And it's just does my heart good to know that I live in a community like this. I did notice that in the various articles in the report, there was a article by the president that was very positive, and it mentioned golf. And there was a article by the general manager that was very positive, and it mentioned golf. And then, of course, there was a report by the golf maintenance supervisor, and of course, that talked about golf. One thing that wasn't mentioned is a plan to change the golf course irrigation system from fresh well water over to effluent from the wastewater treatment plant. It might have been a missed opportunity. I don't think anybody's trying to hide the fact that plan is being talked about and pretty well down the road in some respects. But in any event, it might have been a missed opportunity to let the community know that it was coming. I want to restate my objection to the use of effluent on our golf course, and especially since it's right now the numbers are $3 million to rebuild the golf course irrigation system, another $400,000 to pump the effluent up to the golf course, and so we hear some reports from some of the meetings that were held, and it was estimated that it would cost everyone about $5 a quarter. Fact is, simple math says if you got $3.4 million and you have 10,000 water customers, which I verified that we do, all of the 10,000 people would be required to pay $340. So I just think that simplifies the math about how this thing would be paid for. So I'm opposed to it, not only for the cost, but also because I think it has a possibility of becoming an environmental disaster in the future. I want to change the subject for just a moment because I know my time's limited and I understand that. But I sent a letter to every member of the board, email to every member of the board back in June, I believe it was, that where I tried to raise the attention of the board to the condition of these, I've used the term so many times I have to use it again, these ugly fences that are around our wastewater pumping stations throughout the community. The county maintains 19 of those pumping stations, and each one is surrounded by, many of them are surrounded by wooden stockade fences that are allowed to deteriorate over time. They're very easy to see. You can't miss them. If I bring your attention to it today, I hope you see one before you get home. And I started a petition some years ago and actually presented it to the county commissioners, asking them to be better neighbors. I certainly wouldn't want one of those built by my home. And I think that the county ought to up their game a little bit and consider to replace those wooden stockade fences. I know that because of some work that I did years ago to convince them, they have already inventoried all of the fences, determined which ones needed to be replaced. determine how much it would cost. And back in those days, about 7 years ago, it was going to cost $72,000. But they still haven't been done. And in fact, they have continued to build some ugly wooden fences. So I just hope that that this can get on your radar screen, and that maybe we can encourage the county to be better neighbors as far as the appearance of their property. So thank you.
Any further public comments?
Name is Rob Ostfeld, I live 12th floor guy. I got a few things to say, Mr. President, and I don't want you to interfere with me, then I get nervous. The first thing, like this gentleman said, this is the best manager I ever see in the 30 years in Ocean Pine. He's the person who got us out the hole what Bob Thompson and Hill left us behind. You're a good guy, Joe. All the credit to you. And here under you, under you time as president, 4 or 5 people resigned from the board. And let me go back 2 years ago before we had all the meetings. I've been not satisfied with the lawyer you people got. He had advised you twice with Slovedic and here with the Ashwick Farm. He had told you stories and you went forward and it had cost us thousands and thousands of dollars. I cannot see that we got a lawyer from Baltimore to represent those people here on Ocean Pine. And it was not Mr. Rogers' fault that he went back and tried to get this guy off the Mr. Farr of the election. She did what the lawyer told her to do, even that she was herself a lawyer. She was a very good lady. And with this last election, like every year, I help certain people to get elected. And this is what I did this year too. Unfortunately, it don't went out the way we like it. And those to our lawyer, we all went in court, and we sit in a big mess. Some of the members who quit it, Slobodan, Yunaski, there is here a particular board member goes behind everybody when he do something wrong. That person went behind me too. I got the right, if there is election, to speak up for one man or 2 people and say, don't vote for that. That person had run my reputation down in Ocean Pine. I'm a little bit nervous, people. I'm sorry, guys.
Good time.
The only thing I want to say to you, Mr. President, I got no grudge against you. I think so you're a very nice person, a very nice man. But for the good world, from Ocean Pine, to get peace, I asked you and the Vice President to resign. Both people have stepped too many people on the toes. And it's very well known. That was why all these board members quit for that one particular board member. I asked you, so next year or this year, when that judge makes his decision, that we got a whole new board. We cannot have a year with you and the Vice President. I ask you to resign.
Are there any further public comments?
Morning. I'm Vivian Karakny. I live at 23 Drawbridge Road. I have a couple of comments. First one having to do just real quickly, I wasn't going to bring it up until we started talking about it, but having to do with the reports regarding the human waste bacteria found in the pond. I read the forum all the time. I didn't for a minute think the board hid it. What struck me was, wow, that was pretty serious, and it seemed like a long time before we followed up on the second report. So I guess going forward, I'm sort of thinking like, maybe we need a tickler file for something that is that important. Seems like some months went by before anybody thought like, well, wait a minute, what did the second report tell us? And that we confirmed, in fact, that the first report was an anomaly. So actually what I came here to talk about was the appearance of the North Bridge. So I want to thank Frank Daly. I wrote a letter to all the members of the board and general manager, but Frank was kind enough to get back to me and to see that this was put on the agenda. We've been owning here for about 16 years now. We've been full-time for about 7. And I can tell you most definitely the appearance of the north entrance has continuously gone downhill to the point now it is an abominable eyesore and kind of embarrassing, truthfully. Every time I drive in, I look at it and I go, oof, that's bad. Every time I'm waiting at the light, I look at that guardhouse and go, oh, that's really bad. So when we had the unfortunate car accident on the bridge, I thought, it's time we do something about this. We got to repair the bridge anyway. I finally put my thoughts into writing and got a letter off. Mr. Viola, I'm sorry, but, power washing the wood, it's not going to cut it. That bridge is in sad shape. I understand it's functional. I'm not recommending that we replace the bridge. I'm recommending that we replace the wooden structure for the lane guards, the lights, which are filthy, broken, cracked, have vines growing up the poles. I can go on, and the guardhouse. And then I think going forward, it would be lovely to have an ongoing maintenance program implemented so we don't get to this point again, because when we let this stuff go, the costs significantly rise. Truthfully, it was an eyesore prior to the unfortunate accident, and it's way worse now. And I just can't, for the life of me, imagine that power washing the wood is going to make it look nice. This is our front door. It's like the curb appeal for our houses. You don't want to drive up to the house on the block that has the ugliest curb appeal and think, oof, boy, those people, don't have much pride in where they live or they can't take care of it. And just as an aside, it continues on the north side beyond the bridge. I've actually taken the trip from Bramblewood and it ends around Cape Town. The median strip has never been built up as far as I can tell. And so every winter I look at the lack of fall cleanup so that there's a ton of dead leaves lying there, the ruts on the side from cars and trucks that go up over it, and then the craters that form in the middle that can become ponds that a duck could swim in, I think. So, I guess I'm saying that the whole north, it hasn't been 5 yet. The whole north entrance has been up sort of a bee in my bonnet for quite some time. I really would like to see some work done on it. I implore you to consider doing more than just power washing the wood, especially the bridge. It needs repair. And then going forward, maybe we can move that out into the median strip, replace some of the broken cable boxes and that kind of thing that lay around there, and the craters and the ruts, and maybe build up that median strip. Over the past few years, I've seen trees planted on Cathell Road. I've seen the lovely trees around the South Pond. There are some nice things going on. Actually, Bay Colony just had a little fix up at our Bay Colony sign at the entrance to Drawbridge Road. It's lovely. But you know what? The North Bridge is the entrance to our community, and that's where we need some work. So I thank you very much for the time and for considering this in your upcoming agenda item.
Mr. President, please.
Sure.
So first of all, thank you. And I did receive your email, and I saw that Director Daly was addressing it. First of all, I agree with everything you said. What I do want to explain is, when I mentioned the power washing, that was the maintenance that we were in the process of doing. Obviously, that's not the only thing that we're planning on doing. However, the bridge, I can't just go in there and redo that bridge or build a new bridge or take those lights down or whatever. There's a whole process. I'd be glad to do it. I mean, obviously, it would start at the budget process. I certainly will do that. As far as the guardhouse, and we did receive your letter, I looked at it. I spoke to two of our people in Public Works. I can take that guardhouse down if instructed. I can't just go in and do it, but I can tell you this: I can do it, and at least it's a start. But with everything that was going on with 589, I know from prior years with the board and budget and everything, we didn't know how much to put there or not. But I just want to make sure you understand. I totally agree with you. I'll do it, but there's a process,
Right.
and I don't want you to think, maybe I mistranslated. I was just saying we were in the process of power washing it, showing that we are doing maintenance. But everything that you're asking for there, that would have to be a budget process approved and everything, and I'd be there with you. Okay.
And indeed, I'm aware of that, and so I appreciate that. And I saw that it's an agenda item, and so I wanted to reiterate what I said. And it's not just me. It's my North Side neighbors. The comments are on the forum. I know the forum isn't the be all and the end all, but comments on the forum, comments on Ocean Pines neighbor, whatever that thing, the other one, and we all of us who live on the North Side talk about this. So I don't know who amongst you do live on the North Side, but if you don't, take a trip. Go in through the entrance, go all the way down to Cape Town, turn around, go sit at the Lite for a few minutes, stare at the guardhouse. And I think maybe you will take up this agenda item, hoping that it does become, in fact, a budgetary item, that we can add going forward, and we can get on this hopefully sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Any further public comments?
If I may, I'd like to take 15 seconds for a positive comment. I was very pleased with the community survey. I think it was excellent, the way the questions that what it was looking for and what it was trying to derive about people's opinion. And I think it was so fine. I think it would be great for it to continue. Just continue the survey for years to come. Anybody can ever go in, give their comments, look at them once in a while. Thank you.
I'll thank you for that comment on behalf of the Strategic Planning Advisory Committee who was responsible for that survey. They're a fine group of professionals, and they do have plans to continue doing surveys, not on that scale, but more topic specific going forward. Thank you.
Any further public comments? John?
And thank you, Mr. President. And I just wanted also, as far as what I was just thinking about the statement, the public comment about the testing in the ponds and whatever. We once it came, and Larry, you noticed, once it came that I heard something about some type of species in there, I immediately reached out to the county and we spoke about it. And they gave me background, which is similar to what we found out. So we did, as soon as we found out about it, I can tell you that my team, we spoke to the county about it.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any further public comments? All right, seeing none, we're going to close the floor to public comments. Unfinished business, Amy?
I just have a brief update on the flight turf. The discussion packet is online, so I'm not going to rehash everything. The process worked, as Mr. Violas stated. I'm very proud of the committee and the work that they did and the research they did on the flight turf. Once we got more information from John Viola and Justin and Eddie Wells, it became apparent that this was a very cost prohibitive approach. So it is back to the committee. They are researching other options that they used in the past. Right now, they're looking at increasing the vegetative barrier to see if that will work on the goose population. So they're continuing to work on that, and I'll keep everybody updated. Regarding Vivian's comment regarding a tickler, as a board liaison to that committee, we're on top of it now for future testing results. If you look at my discussion notes, I do have under the background a timetable regarding the flight turf, but I'm keeping a strict timetable, and so that in the future things are going to be done timely. So I appreciate the committee and all the work that they're doing. Thank you.
Frank, you next.
Yeah, the discussion topic that I have regards the short-term rentals, and we passed a motion to change the declaration of restrictions, and the voting for that was targeted to start in the fourth quarter. And now we're in the fourth quarter, and I think we need a discussion on how to do that and how to move that process forward. So the topic itself is voting for the DR change regarding short-term rentals. The concise statement is we need to discuss a plan to get the material to each homeowner to vote on the proposed changes to the declaration of restrictions, giving OP the authority to regulate short-term rentals and to fine owners not in compliance. And the background is the board passed a resolution that requires a vote in each section that would give Ocean Pines the ability to regulate short-term rentals and fine owners not in compliance with the proposed regulations. The purpose of this discussion is to see what the plan is to begin the voting process. And what I would just add to that is it seems to me that understanding this process the way that it's been laid out by our attorneys, and it's Joe Moore, the local attorney that worked with us to develop the resolution, is we should, and I believe through the election committee, be dealing with an initial mailing. And then the way this process works is there can be subsequent mailings until we achieve the 50% plus one that's required in the bylaws to change the declaration of restrictions or to change the DRs. So it seems to me that we could have an initial mailing still in the fourth quarter and to reduce the cost, because this is somewhat different than a referendum. We could also include additional mailings if we need them with the assessment coming out in the spring. I believe that it is possible to do an additional, not mailing, but to put a bounce back card in the Ocean Pines report for people, providing it has the proper information. I believe it is also possible, and the election committee should look at ads in the local press. And I think that we could also consider for the election committee, or I would like the election committee to consider emailing homeowners where we know the homeowner's email regarding it. And all of that has a tendency to suppress the cost that we have, faces an association, to get the votes in each section.
Doug?
Yeah, Frank, conceptually, I agree. I just might offer that rather than the elections committee, maybe we consider using the communications committee for those activities.
Yeah, Colette.
Frank, what is the number that we're targeting?
Well, as far as a number, the way that the DRs are changed, and I'll do this from memory, I don't have the legal document in front of me, is each section votes. And they can vote multiple times. And the vote to change the DR passes or fails when 50% of the people in a section plus one votes one way or the other. So if you, like for example, if there are 10 people in your section and you do an initial mailing and 5 of them vote for it and 5 don't vote, then you send out another mailing. And in that second mailing, if one person votes for it, then you have the 50% plus one, which I believe is required. And that ends in that section. It's done. It's incorporated in that section. And that rolls on through all the sections of the Pines. The other thing I'd also point out, there are 5 sections where this vote is not required because the Declaration of Restrictions already gives the board the powers that we're asking for to regulate the short-term rentals and to fine.
The Strategic Planning Advisory Committee survey was done primarily electronically, and we got over 1,800 responses, which is a phenomenal response rate for any survey. I think we ought to consider electronic as well. I'm not sure. We have the SurveyMonkey software still. We have a subscription for a year. I think there are other electronic options through North Star that we may be able to use, but I think that could be an efficient means as well. There were QR codes available in our newsletters, in our e-blast. There were little cards that were put out, and one of the wait staff at the clubhouse put those little cards inside the payment envelopes or the payment books. So I think if we're going to do this, we ought to capitalize on that as well. The procedure that was used was to have it be primarily electronic, but to have the option of receiving a hard copy on request. So that could save some cost as well.
I think the concern is that this is not a survey. This is an actual vote. From a communication standpoint, I think we have two issues here: the communication to the community to let them know what this is all about and to explain it. But then I think the election committee does have to be involved in the actual vote here. And I'm not sure if we have the capability at this point to vote electronically. So from a survey standpoint, we do. But this is not a survey. This is a vote changing the DRs. So I'm not sure how that could help us. This is not a small project. I think what I'd like to do is appoint a board work group to address how to handle this. And if you would agree, I think I'd like Josette, since she is the liaison to the election committee. Frank, since this the SCR thing, I think you need to be involved in. And I think I'll get involved with this one too, the three of us, if we could work together on this. And we see if we can put a plan together in conjunction with the, and Colette, I think you've got communications too, right?
No, Josette has.
Oh, Josette has them both. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we got all the bases covered. Let's we'll do this as a board work group. And I think we should come up with a plan as to how we're going to do this in conjunction with communications and the elections committee, and then come back to the board with a plan as to how to implement this.
I agree.
I have a question. When we did the survey, Colette, what was the response of people in the community that were favorable to electronic voting? Because I know the park does all their voting electronically. What do we know those results?
Those results have not been released, but I think the preliminary numbers were pretty high. I just can't speak to the exact.
How quickly can we transfer over from the old mailing type of voting to electronic voting? Because that seems to be a huge cost savings. Plus, it's quick.
Well, Amy, this would be a change to procedures too. So
Right.
we just can't.
But I'm just asking, like, what is that timetable? How long would all that take? Do we know?
It seems like it would be the job of this work group to investigate.
Yeah.
that.
Investigate that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we have, first off, I don't think we have the capability at this point.
Yeah.
So that's something we can address.
So-
John?
Mr. President, Josh just mentioned, go ahead, Josh. Josh has some information.
Mike.
I'm sorry, Josh has the information that you're looking for. Go ahead.
Yeah, the preliminary survey result is about 65 in favor, 15 against, and 15 neutral, roughly.
Is there any further discussion on this topic? Right, so the action item here is Josette, Frank, and myself will form a board work group to develop a plan to roll out the voting process for the STR, the DR changes for the short-term rental process. Okay. Doug, you have the next 3 second readings.
The second reading for Resolution C03 to move to have the second reading of C03 and approve the proposed changes per governing documents. The second reading is required in order to enact the proposed changes. And the background is in the discussion with the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee. They recommended that the proposed changes be made.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? You want to run through the changes, Doug?
I don't have them in front. I don't have them in front of me right now. They were provided 2 months ago when we initially brought this up, and then we agreed to defer the vote on it for last month's meeting because the 2 new directors hadn't come up to speed. So I would hope that they had an opportunity to provide or read all the material that was provided. But there were some there were some minor changes in wording, but it was all part of the package that was presented a while ago. And nothing's changed since then.
Yeah, there's really only one change here. Under functions, item 3, advising the board of directors on the conduct of the association's annual audit of financial statements, including meeting with the auditors, and as necessary was added, and reviewing a draft of the audited financial statements before finalization. So that's the only change.
Any comments? John, you have any input on this? Seeing there's no other discussion, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. We have a second reading on FO2.
Yeah, move to have a second reading on Resolution F02 and approval of the proposed changes. The purpose is per governing documents. A second reading is required in order to enact the proposed changes. And the background is in discussion with the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee. They recommended that the proposed changes be made.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I had a concern about one of the changes on FO2 under Section 4, budgeting principles. Item F, limits of authority. The current language is any projected significant year-end variation in individual departmental revenues of expenditures of 5% or greater shall be brought to the attention of the board by the general manager with specific recommendations for actions to be taken to eliminate or reduce any negative variances or an explanation as to why such actions are infeasible. And the recommendation is that that shall be changed to should. And in my view, that represents a policy change that I, as an individual director, disagree with. We have been receiving these past 3 years, you've been doing this, John, that level of reporting from our general manager. We've had wildly successful financial management of the association and engagement of the direct reports of the general manager in helping that success be achieved. And I would like to see that policy not be changed.
Further discussion?
I agree with Ms. Collette, actually. I feel that the should is past tense shall. You're going to be reacting. Should leaves it questionable. So that's my thought on that.
Yes, Doug?
Yeah, as a liaison to the Budget and Finance Committee, they discussed this at length. And while there is certainly merit in the discussion regarding should and shall, one of the other sides of the argument would be that based on the very detailed, accurate, and stellar performances given by our GM in the monthly reporting, I think it goes part and parcel with the job, duties, and responsibilities that are inherent in somebody in that position. The idea of should or shall actually, according to the discussion we had, was sort of a form of micromanaging the GM in such a way that it puts and probably an arguably unnecessary burden of administrative overhead that doesn't need to be there. So the general consensus from the Budget and Finance Committee is that it would probably be far more labor intensive to sit there and worry about 4.92% change in something versus a 5.03% change in something, and the fact that we'd have to do some administrative sleuth, detective work to find out whether or not the GM should have given us that information. I just don't think the concept of the administrative overhead and the micromanaging of the GM really requires the fact that we say shall, and I would be a proponent of saying, accept the change. It should, gives the levity, it gives the ability for the GM to make decisions at an executive level that he is certainly competent and capable of.
Further discussion, Amy?
I agree with Doug on this. I feel like it's another level of administrative oversight that we don't need. The board micromanaging the GM to explain a 5% variance kind of seems overly intrusive. He's the expert, I'm not, but I really don't need the GM to explain revenue is down if we get some rain at the yacht club and transfusion and full circles canceled. I can figure that out and I can ask the questions. And just as a longtime resident in the past, we've had boards micromanage the GM and that did not go well. I respect the role of the committee and the BNF's expertise with this, so I'm fine with the change.
Any further discussion? I've struggled with this one, but I have a problem with changing this to shall. Or should, from shall. And with our current general manager, I don't think we have a problem here. John gives the information we need in great detail. But I go back to the period when Brett Hill was running this as the general manager, and it was a mess. And I don't know what general manager we're going to have in the future. I don't see this as micromanaging. I see this as the board establishing the standard that they expect from the general manager. I hear what Doug's saying, that the difference between 4.93% and 5.03% is trivial. I don't think any of us have really sat and demanded that type of detail to determine if it's being complied with. But somewhere down the road, that may be required with the general manager who does not comply with the reporting requirements that we expect. So as we sit here today, I don't think it's a big issue, but I'm more concerned about what's going to happen down the road when we do at some point have a different general manager. And then looking back at the history, we've seen what has happened in the past when there hasn't been the control of the general manager. I don't see this as micromanaging. I see this as the board setting a policy and setting expectations for the general manager. So I'm not inclined to vote for this. Any further discussion?
When I was doing my research on this, I did review the GM employment contract and the language in the GM performance review. And when I was doing that, I didn't find a lot of exact language. It would say the directors will present, not must present. I found no definition of in the two documents of the term significant variance. And then I got to the section where the board reviews the GM and gives a number from 1 to 5. And I feel like if we're demanding certain things, I don't know how it's possible for the general manager, if we're going to micromanage this number, how the general manager would ever get a 5. I mean, if we're saying, you have to tell us every 5%, and, does he only get a 5 if now he's reporting 1% difference? So I just keep going back to that. It seems like micromanaging to me.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Frank, you're opposed? Motion fails. All right, Doug? And record that as a 4-3 vote.
Yes.
Next motion is to move to have a second reading of Resolution F03 and approval of proposed changes. Purpose and effect as per governing documents. A second reading is required in order to enact the proposed changes. And the background is in discussion with the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee. They recommended that the proposed changes be made.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Colette?
I have the same objection for the monthly reporting in this resolution, changing the requirement from shall to should. And again, I will agree with the remarks that that Larry made, that the thing that raised this as a red flag to me is the historical performance of previous GMs in financial responsibility. And, in my view, that is one of the top most important responsibilities of our general manager, is to not only make sure our operations run the way they should, but that we maintain our budget projections. And so I think this, again, I disagree that this is micromanaging. I think it is setting a standard, and I don't want to see that standard changed from this being a requirement to it becoming optional.
Let's further discussion. Doug?
So, while I certainly respect the difference of opinion, the question would be, how are we going to know that there's a 5% change unless it's being reported? In other words, what are we going to do? You're saying we have this policy, but we rely on the GM, who's currently more than capable of giving this information. How are we going to know, unless we're doing the actual auditing of the monthly reports, that there's a 5% variance? Because it's not the job of the board members to do an operational analysis of a budget figure as it changes from month to month. So my question again would be, regardless, you're still going to rely on the general manager, any general manager, whoever it is, to give you those information. But how are you going to know that number is 5% or more different from the previous month?
Well, I would suggest that the Budget and Finance Committee should be monitoring that.
And Doug, this is not about policing the GM. It's about setting a standard.
I understand that.
We will expect the GM to provide this level of reporting, and we will know when that's not happening, when the Budget and Finance Committee reports to us, or when we see the financial performance. We have the budget documents every month to be able to look at this.
Yeah, like I said, I respect the difference of opinion. Philosophically, I'm just not in agreement with that. I do think it's micromanaging and it's unnecessary.
Is there any further discussion on it? Yeah, and the reasoning for the last one, my reasoning is the same for this. Again, I just don't, we're not in a problematic situation today, but we were in the past, and I don't know what we're going to be like in the future. So,
Yeah, I have a comment, Larry.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm kind of neutral, should versus shall, and I mean, to me, and I come from an operating background in a corporation where the word from the board is you will meet or exceed your forecast or else. Okay? And that's pretty much how I think this board over the last 3 years has approached things. And I think that's how John has approached things. So we don't have a problem. Should or shall doesn't mean any difference to me, because I guarantee you if we were looking at a $2.1 million operating loss, like we were under the Brett Hill era, that there would be a whole lot more fur flying in this community than you've seen over the last year. So should versus shall. I mean, we expect the budget, we expect the amenities to meet the scrolls. Should versus shall resides with the 7 people sitting up here and how they approach it when you're not meeting or exceeding your forecast. And I mean, I'll go with the flow because I think that irrespective of the wording, if you have a board that is willing to sit back and, I don't know, twiddle their thumbs, do whatever they were doing while you're losing money hand over fist in a booming economy, you're going to have a bad situation irrespective of what the resolution says. If you have a board that expects you to meet or exceed your forecast and a GM that reports where they're at on meeting or exceeding their forecast, you won't have a problem irrespective of the wording. So, I mean, I'll vote the same way I did last time, but I understand where everybody's at. But I still think at the end of the day, that's the 7 people sitting up here that the word turns on.
Mary?
Colette?
Frank, I agree with you that it does rest with the 7 people up here. I'll also posit that this has been the standard for ever since this was last revised in 2008. And I dare say that there was no micromanaging around this issue that was evident.
Any further discussion? Or seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 I'm
All,
sorry.
okay. All opposed, say aye.
Aye.
And again, the vote is 4-3 against. Hey, Frank, discussion on the Northgate,
Thanks.
new business.
The topic is the Northgate Bridge cleanup, and the concise statement is homeowners' complaints regarding the appearance of the Northgate Bridge entryway, and they're suggesting for improving its appearance. I won't read the background, and to be absolutely, totally candid, I did the cut and paste job on what Vivian put in the email, because although I use the Southgate where I live, you know, I've heard over the years that we referred to Northgate Bridge as iconic. I kind of refer to it as dilapidated. Okay, I mean, it's showing its age, period. But 2 things before I get into specifically what I'd like to propose, which is written here. First, with the exception of John and his team, and they are having an absolutely unprecedented, outstanding year and years together. The rest of the community has had a pretty crappy year. I mean, we've dealt with COVID. I mean, last year when we were sitting here at this time, we were in masks. We were unvaccinated and no option for vaccination. We couldn't meet with our families. If we went out to some place, it was like, it looked like a group of hostages meeting together. Everybody's wearing masks and sitting far apart. It's just a lousy year for people. And I think that we're now emerging from that situation where we're having a good year, and that's a factor in wanting to change to want a more welcoming approach to our community. The other issue with the Northgate Bridge that I want to make really clear is it is scheduled for replacement in 2034. It will, in all probability, based on any number that we've seen and based on the replacement of 2 bridges within the community, be a referendum issue. There are other issues that would drive the replacement are this. As long as the bridge is structurally sound, we could replace it tomorrow. But if we replace it tomorrow, we're going to probably pay 100% of the replacement cost. If we wait till it structurally deteriorates, we get a contribution from the state and county, which I believe would be 80% of the replacement cost. Okay, so that's a major factor. The other thing is if we had the money to do it and the inclination to replace the bridge today as a vote, I don't know what we'd do because the bridge dumps out onto 589/90 corridor. And it would be nice to know if we're going to have a stoplight there, a circle there, a 2-lane road there, or a 4-lane road there. And the truth of the matter is, if you ask people responsible for that at the county and state level, their response back to you is, I don't know what, and I don't know when those changes will be made. So we could build a marvelous structure, from a non-appearance standpoint, from a functional standpoint, and somebody in the State Highway Administration could essentially destroy that expenditure by electing to do something different. So we're kind of trapped with it until some other people make decisions, and we really have no part in that decision-making process. However, the changes that I would like to propose are cosmetic, okay, and strictly cosmetic. And I really think that given the lousy year that most of the people in this community have had, that I would be in favor of shutting down the Northgate entrance for several days, power washing it, staining it, making sure the light stanchions are perpendicular to the horizontal deck, making sure that the lights all match, put up some Christmas decorations, power wash. I mean, guys, I've had to power wash fences in my yard and my daughter's house. I can power wash the guardhouse, trust me. Take the moss off the roof, put a Christmas tree in, and make it welcome. I realize that during the Christmas season, a lot of people go to Florida, a lot of people go elsewhere, but a lot of people do come here because it's their second home. Make it welcoming and make it a little fun and joy for this year, coming out of what I would say is probably the worst year that Ocean Pines has had from an impact on individual people ever. I mean, we're emerging from a pandemic. Let's lighten the place up for a while.
John?
Yeah, and Frank, and I appreciate the board. The lights, just, we did look at the lights. I looked at them when I first came in here. First of all, they were iconic. A lot of people, I guess we tried to change them years ago and there was a lot of pushback. Maybe that's changed. We cannot get those lights anymore. But I'll change them. We're not just power washing and, that was the regular maintenance. We are going to fix all the timbers. I mentioned that. We're going to fix that. We are going to be fixing the approach and getting it up to standards. Staining it, we can do that. We certainly can. Outside of cosmetic, it'll just be another maintenance, but I can certainly do that. I'm open to this. So obviously, I'll march whatever the board says. But this is, and I think I've proven before that if you give me the budget and the time and everything and give me an excavator, I'll take care of it.
Yeah, and if you need something, because I don't think it's a budget item and I think it could be about $15,000, just say so. And hell, I'll call a special meeting and put the motion forth. But let's get it done, and let's get it done for the holiday season. I mean, like I said, let's put a little bit of joy into people's lives that come here rather than the doom and gloom of the past year.
Yeah, I agree with Frank that there's a couple things here. First off, the bridge is sound and it's not due for replacement. Secondly, this isn't the first accident that has occurred on that bridge, and generally the repairs get done in a fairly timely manner. With the situation we're facing now, it's going to be a while until
the material, right?
Right, till material is available. So, whatever we can do to spruce it up. I agree that we should go ahead and just get it done. I know that they're also looking at, as John mentioned earlier, is some other ways to affect the approach on the bridge. But but Frank is also right. We've met with the state. They don't know what they're going to do. You can see the development continuing along 589, and we could go ahead and do something and then have to change it, next year or 10 years from now. Who knows? So
we'll put together some type of plan, whether it's holiday lights, the guardhouse. I know that the lady mentioned that. We already discussed that. I'll put together a plan. Hopefully it gets approved and we'll march.
John, what kind of, the thing I do notice the most, and I use the Northgate Bridge, is the lighting. And I looked at it, and Larry, I don't know if I told you, when I first came in, I looked at it and, we've had the discussions. Apparently we cannot get that type of light anymore.
What I was told and what I believe I read years and years and years ago when they tried to change it, people got upset. That doesn't mean that hasn't changed. So there has been spacing. They've spaced out the lights to try to still keep it consistent. But, we can change it if that's what's, if I'm instructed to do that, or I'll come forward with some recommendation.
I mean, the globes that have been busted out. I mean,
They told me, because I did look into this, and again, it was when I first came in, that they could not get that type of light anymore.
so if that's the case, then we need to look at doing something else because
Okay.
they are unsightly.
Okay, we'll put something together, a recommendation or a proposal. What committee do I go to with that?
Well, John, if it's within your authority,
Okay,
you can just do it.
okay.
I would say sooner the better. And John, if it's outside of your authority, I mean, look, I'd be willing to call a meeting Tuesday, okay, if you had to plan by Tuesday. I mean, let's get it done for the
About
holidays.
Tuesday, it's the holiday week. But we'll look at it. Again, there was pushback, the iconic lights, but maybe that time has passed. But absolutely. Well, we can also, the plan we actually discussed when we got the ladies' letter about taking down the guardhouse. In fact, nobody spoke to me the other day if I wanted to do it. So we'll put together some type of plan.
Matter of fact, I think,
Larry,
yeah,
I
I
have a
think,
question for you.
yeah, I think Debbie Donahue had mentioned to me that they would like to get that guardhouse over there at the racket center for something. So,
Move that guardhouse over to Racket Center?
yeah.
Yeah.
So you might want to talk with her. We can
Okay.
repurpose it.
I will, I'll address.
Colette?
Okay, that was my question, whether it was feasible to remove it. Yes,
They
it
told me
is.
just the other day, like I said, I did receive the ladies' letter. We talked about several things, talked about a different type of bridge, obviously, and how we can simplify that bridge. But again, it's a process. I will work on that Monday about efforting moving that guardhouse over, not sure where at the Rackers Plus. We'll look into that. I just want to point out, we do have the lady on the board now. Josette came to me a while ago too. She actually volunteered her time and her husband to do some stuff on there. Maybe I can talk to Josette again. She did, her and her husband, and I applaud that. And I
Yes.
just want everybody else to know that she, again, and Frank put out all the points that, how much do we do, where we're at, but we can spruce it up, sure.
And I would like to make a recommendation as well. We talked about this in the communications committee, that guardhouse would be a lovely place to put our historical documents of Ocean Pines instead of in a closet.
All right, we'll look into it.
Doug?
I'll look into it.
Yeah, a couple things. Number one, I want to echo my support for all this. I think it's a great idea, and would ask John to come up with what he sees as the good way to upgrade the Northgate entrance. With regard to the guard shack, as a matter of fact, Josette, I'm glad you mentioned that because I had a conversation with Sharon O'Hare probably about, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago when they were talking about the roundabout, and she had suggested that they take the guard shack and keep it as some sort of historical reference
Yes, sir.
and it was also when we were doing the 50th anniversary committee. So that might be another option to take a look at, get some opinions on whether or not they want to keep that in some sort of Ocean Pines historical reference.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, no, I like it.
Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion on this topic? All right, before we have a motion to adjourn to closed session, I'm going to go ahead and move that we approve the appointments. So I'm going to read the appointments for this month, and then we'll have a motion to approve them. First appointment is Joseph Peloso, first-term elections. Jeannie Pennington, first-term elections. Ann O'Connell, second-term environmental natural assets. Karen Krun, Detter, second-term environmental and natural assets. Cheryl Jacobs, second-term communications. John Reeves, chair of Aquatics. And Carol Ludwig, chair of Aquatics.
Elections.
Elections, I'm sorry. Can I have a motion to approve those appointments?
So moved.
So
Is there a
moved.
second?
Second.
All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye. Colette?
Yeah, there's a motion to adjourn to closed session for the purpose of discussing matters pertaining to employees and personnel, specifically having to do with the completion of the general manager Performance review is permitted by the Maryland Homeowners Association Act, Section 11B-111A.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll adjourn to closed session. And I want to note, Josette, it's 10:45 a.m.
Thank you, sir.